Alright, what's up everybody? This is Ryan here. It's 7 a.m., so I probably look a little bit tired. I made a video a couple days ago on, the title was Am I Smart Enough to Be a Programmer? How to Deal with Doubt and Imposter Syndrome. And I won't go into the finer details of the video, but someone posted a comment to it which I thought I would share an answer on, or I think it was a good question. Ironically, or not ironically, but amusingly, when this question first popped up, I actually thought it was someone flaming me. Because when you run a YouTube channel, you get a certain amount of naysayers, which is fine. Stuff like that actually makes me laugh. But the question is, at what point do you stop before it becomes a sunk cost? I actually thought they were talking about my YouTube channel in general, which is pretty hilarious. Like, when are you going to quit, man? You suck. So anyways, I realized it was actually posted to that particular video, and if I'm reading the context of the comment correctly, it's actually a genuine question. Although it might still be flame, but either way, I don't really care. I'm going to give an answer on it anyways. So for my ASL friends, what the question basically means is, when should you quit something? When does something you are doing or learning become not worth doing or learning, and you should change to a different path or goal or whatever? So there's really two things I wanted to say about this. I did write some notes down here because I tried to answer this question a little while ago and my video was just too rambly. So there's really two things I would look at, two factors. Are you learning and improving your character? Learning or improving your character, or just going through the motions? So are you in a situation where, if I could speak from like personal experience, sometimes I've had jobs or I've been studying courses for one whole semester. That's the extent of my post-secondary education, where I wasn't super interested and I had already maybe learned some skills from the job, and I was just kind of going through the motions and playing a lot of video games on the weekends, and not really heading in any particular direction, just kind of, the word we would use in English is just perfunctory, going through the motions without really thinking too much about it, and not in like a Zen sense of that. So that would be a situation where, okay, maybe I should quit. Basically, if I'm no longer developing as a person and not learning anything, and that feeling kind of persists for a long time. Now, with that being said, the difficulty with that particular, you have to kind of balance all of these different ideas, because very often I find, often like even in situations where at the time I thought this is like the most boring or annoying or tedious or uncomfortable job or topic that I'm studying, at the time, in the moment, it seems like that, and then in retrospect I've looked back and thought, wow, that's actually like, that was one of the most important things I ever did. In my case, that was working sales for 4 years. I hate sales, as some of you have probably noticed on this channel. I don't actually like walking up to people and being like, hey, buy my stuff. I really don't like doing that. I did that for 4 years as a job and became reasonably good at it. But the thing about that job is it allowed me to develop communication skills and an ability to speak to people, which has served me very well in my life, especially in like person-to-person communication, and not just talking to a friggin' webcam. So what I'm trying to say there is that sometimes most skills or things that you develop take months, at least weeks to develop, lots of hours. So don't quit too early. And very often you'll only realize what you've learned months or even years after the fact. So what I'm trying to say here is, it can be difficult to trust your intuition, but if you really feel like you're going nowhere or not actually developing as a person, or maybe even going backsliding a little bit, going down a little bit, sunk cost, then you should consider quitting. And there's nothing wrong with changing course. Don't be someone who stays the course just for the sake of ego. Be okay with the idea and frequently consider that you might be wrong. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to mention is a simple question. Is your physical or mental health deteriorating? That's a fun word. So this one can be a little more difficult to quantify. So what I would tell you as a general rule is that if you are miserable most of the time doing what you're doing, in this case I'm more thinking of a job, if you're miserable most of the time, like most days you come into work and you find yourself frequently saying or thinking, I don't want to be here. Even on days where nothing really bad has happened, probably you should quit, or at least start looking for something else. This might apply to a field of study. If it's just really not if it's really not interesting you, and maybe you just kind of wound up there because your parents said, go get a degree, and didn't say, pursue something that interests you, then that might also be a situation to consider quitting. I've worked jobs where my physical and mental health really went downhill. I worked a job in 2018 that had insane hours, and that required me to work really, really late. And that same summer, they were renovating the balconies on my apartment. So at 9 a.m. there was construction workers banging hammers and using saws and drills and all kind of stuff. So I wasn't sleeping past 9 o'clock in the morning. So for about a 4-week stretch, I was getting on average 4 hours of sleep a day. And I'm not one of those people who does well on low sleep. Not at all. I need at least 8 hours, otherwise I generally feel pretty bad. So my mental and physical health went really downhill, and it took me about almost a year to fully recover from that, both mentally and physically. Now you might be wondering what I mean by like mental health. Did I go insane? Well, on a certain level, yes, but what I mean is that I was angry and resentful and demotivated for about a year because I worked that job and went through that level of sleep deprivation. So if you're really like falling apart, yeah, you should quit your job almost for sure, unless you don't have any other options, because 99% of the time, in my opinion, it is not worth sacrificing your physical and mental health for a job. Unless, and this is the only caveat to this particular one, let's say you want to be a Navy SEAL and you know you need to go through BUDS training and Hell Week and stuff like that, and you're about to go into some situation where, yeah, you are going to sacrifice some mental and physical health. That's a different calculated decision. Also, the final theme I wanted to mention, a good friend of mine who's a little bit younger than me, but is getting started with, or is well into entrepreneurship and is a really sharp fellow. He mentioned that he was going to do kind of like a extreme productivity schedule where he would be sleeping, I think it was like 5 or 6 hours a night, and spending something like 18 hours a day studying, or more than 12 hours a day studying and working on his businesses. Now, I think it's important that everyone who wants to be like an entrepreneur or something like that tries something like that, because what you'll do is you will get to know what your limits are. But at the same time, I wish him luck and still do. But I also wanted to point out there may come a point where the physical or mental deterioration of following such a schedule will lead you to be less productive than you might otherwise be with a bit more spare time or a bit more time sleeping. Now, this is different for everyone. I've known some human beings who worked some really crazy hours and still got a degree or something like that. So it really depends. But what I'm saying here is if your physical and mental health is deteriorating, if it's really going and it's not a situation where, like, yeah, this is my career, then you should quit, in my opinion, almost definitely. If it's a calculated decision and you recognize, yeah, I'm going to be really uncomfortable for a certain period of time, but it's for a goal, it's for a reason, that might be the only reason where you might want to really go into that and figure out where your limits are. If you get really sick while doing something like that, like like you get a flu, or I guess coronavirus is what's going around now. That's usually a sign that your body is saying, "Hey, you need to slow down because this ain't right." So that's it for this video. I still managed to ramble for a whole 11 minutes, which amazes me. But yeah, I guess that's shorter than usual. Thank you for watching. Good luck, and hopefully that was useful.